When I take melatonin, I have the most horrific nightmares. Like I don't want to touch that stuff. It just gives me horrible nightmares. And this is not common, but I do meet people with the same thing. And it's like, I wonder what that is all about. I just don't take it. But what would be the pineal gland connection to that? Or is there one that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's a lot of connections. So,
Mm.
first of all, serotonin, right, in the brain versus in the body are two different conversations, right?
Yes, yes,
And even
absolutely.
if people are going to talk about, changing their diet and the effect that might have on their mood or their brain, that's even different. Okay. The
Right.
brain is going to take the tryptophan and going to create the serotonin, which will eventually become melatonin, acetylserotonin, melatonin, et cetera. So
Mm-hmm.
what can go on in the brain versus what can go on in the body are different. If people are taking a melatonin supplement, my first question would, or people that are taking 5-HTP, other things, et cetera, my first question would be the metabolics of what happens in the body versus the brain, because there can
Mm-hmm.
be the body and the brain on two different pages, so to speak here. And a lot of times individuals that will have autonomic or other types of disturbances, that's already the problem is the body and the brain are not on the same page or they're not speaking together properly. That's one thing. The other thing is that individuals, a lot of times who react poorly to melatonin, they will have an issue because just how we can activate hormones down a certain pathway. The
Mm-hmm.
medical literature may disagree on some of this, but I believe, based on research, that the potential to deactivate this into serotonin exists. And so, what I believe happens with some of these individuals is that because that they are not having this pathway as productive as possible for whatever reason, that melatonin supplements not able to be accommodated, right, in the body, in the brain, for various other reasons. We could talk about cellular signaling. We could talk about other obstacles that would impact why melatonin can't work at a cellular level, because that's ultimately what we need. Is we need the melatonin to work at a cellular level. It doesn't just come out of the pineal gland and then poof, we call it a day. It does what it
No,
does only because it's going to
work.
dock on the cells and do what it needs to do. So if there's
Yeah.
obstacles that are impairing that, then that melatonin can't do what it needs to do. The body's going to recognize, whoa, 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 this is way too much. This is crazy. We don't need this. So it, in my opinion, can deactivate back into these serotonin pathways that at that
Mm-hmm.
point, what's the difference in serotonin being something that should be a daytime neurotransmitter? That's like a serotonin syndrome at night. Okay. And so some people with the melatonin get the heart palpitations, they get anxiety, they're going to sweat at night. And this to me means that what has happened is that the inability to use the melatonin, which is the real problem that we have to work on,
Mm-hmm.
has resulted in the melatonin being in excess, and the body is now trying to deactivate that. It's similar to what we would see where that cortisol can deactivate back into cortisone when the body says, okay, I've got so much of this stuff, thanks, but I cannot use this in the next, lifetime. So we're going to deactivate some of this. What do we get? We get an issue where that the cortisol level may not be sufficient, and then we go and we adjust what happens with cortisone, creating a whole other set of issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to melatonin, that can be a thing. Also, dreaming is very much guided by serotonin signaling in the brain. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
dreaming, various states of sleep cycle, et cetera, even when people, for example, are on hallucinogenics, the way that serotonin impacts the way the brain can shift from different cycles or states of being, serotonin is going to be involved in that. Okay. Some argue that psychedelics work that way because what they're doing is that they're decreasing the barrier of the brain to shift from one mode or one action state to the other. I'm convinced that that's also something that might be impaired, or impaired, I don't really like to say, but could be getting blocked, or that there's chemistry that's kind of not working as intended, and that can also create the nightmares, or the night terrors, et cetera, that some people might associate with it. So there's a lot of different ways that people can end up having this to become a problem. But ultimately, the idea is that, yes, when you supplement with melatonin, this is not manufactured endogenously of your own body. So there's always going to be that hiccup with any supplement where the body for a second kind of has to raise its eyebrow and go, okay, I think this is what you are. You look pretty much like this, so we'll use you like that. But a lot of times, sometimes the smarter the immune system, the smarter the body, the more it's going to go, absolutely not. You are not estrogen. You are trying to dress up like estrogen, and you're not. Actually, you're estrogen from a horse. So, no, thanks. Okay. And
Right.
so that's not going to necessarily go well in the cells. And then there's this backlash, right?